Let me ask you something real quick. If you knew your husband was cheating, and everyone at the table thought he was the perfect man, would you stay quiet to keep the peace? Or would you destroy the lie right in front of everyone? Because that's exactly what I did. And in 10 minutes, this family dinner turned into emotional wreckage no one ever recovered from. And the scary part, he had absolutely no idea what was coming. Look at him, sitting across from me, laughing with my father like they're best friends, cutting into his steak, relaxed, confident, comfortable. My mom is smiling. His mom is bragging. Wine glasses are clinking. To everyone here, my husband is the gold standard, the loyal husband, the loving father, the guy every parent wishes their daughter married. And I'm just sitting there, smiling, nodding, waiting, because I know something they don't in exactly 10 minutes. Every single person at this table is going to see who he really is. But to understand why I waited this long, we have to rewind 2 weeks. 2 weeks earlier. I still trusted him. Not blindly, but enough. We'd been married long enough to know routines, patterns, energy, and his energy had changed. At first, it was subtle. He stopped leaving his phone face up, started taking calls in the garage, claimed late meetings that somehow never came with overtime pay. I told myself I was being paranoid. That's what women are trained to do, right? Second guess our instincts, talk ourselves out of the truth. But then came the smell. One night, he walked in late, kissed me on the cheek, and when he took off his jacket, I smelled perfume. Not mine. Not even close. Something expensive, sweet, too intentional to be accidental. I asked him about it. He didn't hesitate. He laughed, said I was imagining things. That laugh, that was my first real red flag. Because when someone lies, it usually means they've been practicing. After that night, everything started clicking into place. The phone never left his hand. The screen locked instantly when I walked by. Pasa changed for security. He stopped asking about my day, stopped being present, physically there, emotionally gone, and the worst part, he started being extra nice. Random flowers, sudden compliments, over-explaining where he'd been. That's when I knew something was wrong. And deep down, I think I already knew what it was. I just didn't expect to find proof the way I did. 3 nights later, he was in the shower, steam filling the bathroom, music playing. His phone was nowhere in sight, but his iPad, sitting on the nightstand, unlocked. Same Apple ID. I stared at it for a solid minute, told myself not to touch it, told myself I didn't want to know, but my hands moved anyway. The notification banner popped up, a text from a woman, and the preview alone told me everything. Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. My chest went cold. I opened the messages, and that's when my marriage officially died. Because this wasn't a mistake. This was a whole secret life. There were months of messages, photos taken in hotel mirrors, inside jokes I'd never heard, plans made while I was cooking dinner for our kids. I scrolled until my hands were shaking. Then I saw the receipts, hotel bookings, dinner charges, all paid from our joint account, money meant for our family, spent on her. And that's when the worst realization hit. This wasn't recent. This had been going on for months while we celebrated birthdays, while we hosted holidays, while I trusted him with everything. And then I saw her name, and my stomach dropped. Her name wasn't unfamiliar. It wasn't some random coworker. It was someone I knew. Someone who had been in my house, someone who had smiled at me. I sat there frozen, listening to the shower run, holding evidence that could destroy multiple lives. And at that moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to confront him right away, because reacting emotionally would only protect him. I needed to think. I needed control. I needed a plan. And that plan, I started with pretending I knew nothing at all. You never notice how easy it is for someone to lie when they think you're too broken to fight back. Because the moment I stopped reacting, he got careless. And that's when I started collecting everything. Because what I discovered next wasn't just betrayal, it was calculated. That night, I didn't say a word. He went to bed, wrapped his arm around me. I fell asleep like nothing happened, and I just stared at the ceiling. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the iPad at his face. I wanted answers right now, but then I thought about my kids, about stability, about leverage. If I confronted him too soon, he'd lie, delete everything, turn himself into the victim, so I made a different choice. I stayed quiet, I kissed him goodnight. I made breakfast the next morning, and inside, I switched into survival mode. Because silence isn't weakness, it's camouflage. For the next 2 weeks, I watched him, not like a wife, like a detective. I memorized his patterns, the times he left the house, the excuses he recycled, and once he thought I was oblivious, he got sloppy. He stopped deleting messages, stopped hiding receipts, started assuming I'd never look. That's when I started screenshotting everything, every text, every emoji, every I miss you. I backed them up, email, cloud, USB, because I wasn't just catching him cheating, I was building a case. And the deeper I dug, the uglier it got. One afternoon, I logged into our bank account, and at first, I told myself I was just checking bills, but then I noticed hotel charges not once, not twice, dozens, fancy restaurants I'd never been to, weekend trips he claimed were work conferences, all funded by the same account we used for groceries, for rent, for our kids. I felt sick, because cheating is one thing, but stealing from your family, that's a different kind of betrayal. And then I noticed something even worse. The dates lined up perfectly. Trips he said were for work. It happened when I was visiting my parents, hotel stays, on the nights he claimed he crashed at a friend's, and then I saw it. One charge, a hotel room booked on our child's birthday weekend. That's when my hands started shaking, because while we were lighting candles, he was lighting a light, and that's when I decided to find out exactly who she was. I went back to the messages, scrolled slower this time, read between the lines, mentions of familiar places, inside jokes I recognized, and then it hit me. She wasn't a stranger. She was someone from our circle, someone who had been to family gatherings, someone who had met my kids, a woman who looked me in the eyes and smiled. I felt humiliated. Not just betrayed, exposed, because this wasn't just happening behind my back, it was happening around me. And that's when I realized this couldn't end quietly. A few days later, his mom called to remind us about the annual family dinner. Both families, same house, same date. She said, "Everyone's so excited to see you too." I almost laughed, because suddenly everything clicked. The timing, the audience, the symbolism. If he was going to lie in front of everyone, then everyone deserved the truth, all at once. But before I pulled the trigger, I needed to make sure I was protected. That week, I didn't just collect evidence. I prepared. I called a lawyer, asked questions quietly, learned my options. I started separating finances slowly, moved what I could legally, documented everything. And through all of it, he never suspected a thing. He still kissed me goodbye. He still told me he loved me. And every time he did, it made what I was about to do feel even more justified, because at that family dinner, he was about to hand me the final weapon himself. Do you ever watch someone smile, knowing they're about to destroy their own life? Because that's exactly what I was doing as I set the table that night. And the crazy part, he thought this dinner was celebrating him. The house smelled like roasted meat and garlic bread, candles lit, music low. I wore the dress he always said was his favorite, not for him, for confidence. Both families started arriving. Hugs, laughter, compliments. My mom told me how lucky I was. His dad clapped him on the shoulder, calling him a real provider, and he soaked it all in, relaxed, cocky, untouchable. He had no idea this was his last night playing the role, because the more praise he got, the harder the fall was going to be. I smiled, poured wine, refilled plates. I acted normal. So normal that he leaned over at one point and whispered, "Everything okay? You seem happy tonight?" I nodded, because I was not happy the way he thought. Happy because everything was finally aligned. The proof, the timing, the audience, all waiting. And then he stood up, he tapped his glass. Everyone quieted down. He smiled, that fake humble smile, and said he wanted to say something about love, about commitment, about honesty. I felt my heartbeat in my ears, because the words coming out of his mouth were about to bury him. He thanked his parents. He talked about how important trust is in a marriage. Said he was proud to be a family man. People nodded. Some even clapped. I watched him the whole time and waited, because when he finished, I stood up. I didn't rush. I picked up my wine glass, took a sip. Then I smiled and said, "Since we're sharing honest thoughts tonight, I think it's only fair that everyone hears all of them." The room froze. He looked confused. I walked toward the TV, plugged in a small USB, and hit play. And that's when the illusion cracked. The screen lit up. Messages, photos, dates. His name is at the top of every thread, her name underneath. At first no one spoke, then I heard it. A sharp inhale from his mother. My sister whispered, "Is this real?" His face went pale. He laughed nervously. Said, "What is this?" But I wasn't done, because I didn't just show them messages. I handed them proof. I passed out envelopes, one to each person at the table, printed chat logs, hotel receipts, bank statements. I told them to open them. Slowly, the sound of paper sliding out felt louder than any scream. Faces changed. Confusion turned into shock, shock into disgust. Someone dropped their envelope. He stood up suddenly, and that's when he tried to flip the script. He laughed, too loud, too forced, called me dramatic, said I was misinterpreting things. I tried to turn it into a joke, but no one was laughing because the dates were clear. The money was traceable. And the other woman's name. It was known. Whispers started. People looked at each other, at him, at me, and in that moment he realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a public execution. But the real explosion. There's a moment when a lie collapses so completely that the liar doesn't know who to attack anymore. That's where he was standing, in the middle of the room, surrounded, exposed, and what he did next made everything worse. He started talking fast, too fast, saying things like, "You don't know the full story. She's taking things out of context. This is private. Why would you do this here?" Then he turned to me, called me emotional, unstabafter, said I was trying to humiliate him. I didn't say a word, because the truth was already speaking for me. And then his mother finally spoke. His mom held the papers with shaking hands. She reread the dates, once, twice, then she stopped. Her face was drained of color. She looked up at him and asked quietly, "Was this happening on our grandchild's birthday?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. And that silence, that was louder than any confession, because that's when my father stood up. My dad pushed his chair back. Slowly. The room went dead quiet. He didn't yell, which somehow made it scarier. He looked straight at my husband and said, "You sat at my table. You took my food. You promised to protect my daughter." His voice cracked, and for the first time that night, I saw fear on my husband's face. But fear didn't stop him from trying one last move. He snapped, pointed at me, said I wasn't affectionate enough, that I worked too much, that he felt ignored in front of everyone. I finally spoke. I said, calmly, "So your solution was lying, stealing from your kids, and sleeping with someone from our circle." No one defended him, not even his father. And that's when the truth fully crushed him. His voice started shaking. Anger turned into panic. He tried to explain, tried to justify, but every sentence dug him deeper. People avoided his eyes. The chairs shifted. The image he spent years building, gone. And I realized something in that moment. I wasn't angry anymore. I was free, because what I said next ended the marriage forever. I looked at him and said, "You don't live here anymore?" He laughed nervously. I thought I was bluffing. That's when I told him I already packed. "Your things." Silence. His parents looked confused. My mom looked relieved. And his face, that's when it finally hit him. This wasn't emotional. This was legal. And he still didn't know how far ahead I really was. Didn't happen until his parents opened the last page. You know what real power feels like? It's not screaming. It's not crying. It's watching the person who betrayed you realize you've already moved on without them. And that realization hit him the second he stepped outside. I didn't raise my voice. I pointed toward the front door, and I said, "Your things are outside." He looked at me like I was bluffing, like this was still an argument. So I opened the door. Cold air rushed in, and there they were, 2 suitcases, a box of shoes. His jacket hung over the railing. Packed. done. Prepared. The room stayed silent. No one stopped me because everyone understood something in that moment. This wasn't revenge, this was the consequence. But he still tried one last time. He lowered his voice. I tried to sound calm, said we could talk privately, said he'd fix things, said this didn't have to end like this. I looked at him and said, "You had months to fix this. You chose not to. That was it. No more explaining, no more defending." I closed the door behind him and locked it. That's when something unexpected happened. His mother didn't follow him. Neither did his father. They stayed seated. His mom looked at me and whispered, "I'm so sorry." My parents wrapped their arms around me. Not one person asked me to reconsider. Not one. Because when the truth is that clear, there's nothing left to debate. And what happened next? That was the real twist. The divorce moved fast. Because evidence doesn't argue. He tried to spin the story to friends, but screenshots don't lie. People stopped answering his calls. The other woman, she vanished. Turns out, she liked secrecy, not consequences. Last I heard, he was living in a small apartment, no family dinners, no image to hide behind, just silence. And me, I slept through the night. For the first time in months, I stopped checking phones. I stopped doubting myself, stopped shrinking. I wasn't angry anymore. I was relieved because losing a liar isn't a loss, it's freedom. But here's the part nobody talks about. If I had confronted him privately, he would have denied it, deleted everything, painted me as crazy. But I waited, I stayed calm. I chose the moment, and that made all the difference. So if you ever find yourself doubting, your instincts don't. They know before your heart catches up. So let me ask you something. If you were in my place, would you have done the same? Comment he deserved it if you believe karma finally showed up. Like this video if you stayed until the end. Subscribe for more real-life stories where cheaters don't get away with it, because silence protects liars. And tonight, silence lost.